All right, so want to give a props and shout out to what is going to be happening and may happen in the future. And I was like, we're going to get this probably started when WWE Evolution comes up. But basically, the women division is finally having star power. And what I mean by that, because I know somebody gonna be like, man, they got Bianca, they got Io, they got Becky, they got Charlotte, they got Bayley, they got Rhea Ripley. Like, they got star power. And it's like, yeah, that's not necessarily what I mean. What I mean is star power along with their depth. See, the thing is on the men's side is that the men have a good plethora of people that I think I was like, while it's a good problem to have, is also being a problem, and we can sort of see that now. Whereas like they got enough guys where we're all like, hey, shouldn't they get a title? Should they get a title? I don't know. They might seem like they in prominent spot to get a title. Like, I know a lot of people bash and stuff like that, and the whole thing with Jay Uso, but at the same time, he was really over. I was like, his story from the bloodline till now, and him being all that close, I was like, hey, that's sort of what you want as a guy that could get the title at some point. And while we'll have to see if he ever gets in that spot again, or this is a one-time thing, and then we're gonna look back on it like, yo, that was a crazy time. What I'm saying is that and we sort of seen in the last couple years before he got this spot at WrestleMania, that you can throw him in as a guy to basically challenge for the championship, and at those times it was like, oh, is Jay gonna win? Could he win? Is it a possibility gonna win? Now I think I was like, and to me that's sort of the thing that's like with him. I think, like, for instance, like Damian Priest. I was like, I did a video over him a long time ago of like him having the championship. And I was like, you can never take away that he won a championship, in a way that if you do put him in a title match, you got to give him at least a little bit of respect of he could win it. But the difference between him and Jay is that I was like, Jay has the star power, at least especially right now, of you have a feeling that's like, oh man, he could come away with the championship. Where Damian Priest at this moment right now, you sort of know, nah, he's not going to get the championship. Does that mean ever? Who knows? But if you think about it, I was like, we already got the top players right now. Gunther, y'all gonna be in the title spot. CM Punk, he's gonna be around the title. Seth Rollins gonna be around the title. Drew McIntyre, I was like, I know it's looking bad right now, but we always know that at any moment he could easily be thrust into that spot. You got Jacob Fatu. I was like, he might not win it, but he's too much of the crowd wanting it. Of LA Knight being somebody that people wanted to put the title on. I was like, you always got like the old school guys like Randy Orton and stuff like that lurking around. You still always got Cody. You got Sami Zayn, who everybody's expecting to get a championship at some point. You got you got some of the new player where it's like Penta. Everybody loves Penta today. Hey, people are going to be asking for it at some point before, at some point they're going to be giving their hopes up. We're going to be expecting Bronson Breaker in order, like, being in around the championship, and I was like, in the future. So I was like, you have people that are around or coming up, and you got to expect with some of the call-ups, Obafemi, Trick Williams, Ricky Starks, that will also play into this whole thing. But you get what I'm saying? There's like at least around like 12 people that you can at least see like, oh man, I was like, they're around the title spot. I was like, they could be there in the future, or people are wanting it. I was like, but then you still even got people on the lower levels of, and by this I would mean like Chad Gable. Do we think he's gonna get a championship? Probably not. But everybody's hyped up to see Chad Gable. I'll throw Penta in that spot. Dominic Mysterio's there, of somebody that might be in the future, but also right now. I was like, people got their hopes up, but you still have it in the back of your mind of somebody like Montez Ford. But I was like, but they carry a weight to them. And I was like, and I did a women's video not too long ago where I talked about that the women they are top heavy, and then after that they really, really, really drag. And by that I mean some of the ladies like Shayna Baszler, she was there, no pop. I was like, Zoe Stark, I was like, they botched that, no pop there. I was like, B-Fab doesn't really get too much. I was like, I feel like she had a spot time that she could have. I was like, Shotzi before she got released, nothing. I was like Dakota Kai. I was like, I think she had her fans, but I was like, I don't feel like it was like the crowd erupting. I think it was just like a certain amount of fans or whatever. So, oh wait, hold on. I gotta also say one of the people up in the top spot, Liv Morgan. I was like, I seen how she attacked Bella. I don't want her to come over here and she sees this video and come yelling at me about not giving her respect. But now I was like, now I think those spots are now being filled up as well. I was like, yeah, you got your Chelsea Greens and stuff like that. But I was like, now you got Stephanie Bacare, who is getting massive pop. I was like, Roxanne she's getting the pop. I was like, Julia, and I was like, yeah, they're all new and fresh, but they're still getting it. I was like, you got that with Jade, she's only been around a year, feels like longer. And then you got to think about, we're going to get Jordan Grace at some point. I was like, Zarya, who I was like, I feel like got a good enough of a crowd of people from her Independence Day. I was like, Brooke, I was like, Blake Monroe or Mariah May, you know, I was like, she got herself some supporters. I was like, at some point you're going to get, and I was like, this is where I think Evolution will kick in, because a lot of those women will from NXT is going to be in the matches and stuff. But I was like, Lola Vice, Jada Parker, Soul Ruka, you get what I'm saying. I was like, they have been on NXT enough to now they're going to get the same reaction as Roxanne is, who's somebody who came all the way through. Whereas like Stephanie and Julia had already had the buzz a little bit beforehand. And that's to me is where it's like the women have really grown to me with star power, is that now you can go down a list of people and be like, okay, and outside of the people that just like, who watches women wrestling? You think it's boring and all this other stuff. And I was like, to me, that really, I was like, so a lot of them are just trolling and being assholes. But I do think that I was like, Lyra just now starting to really get some like buzz with her. I was like, she sort of did at the very beginning, and then it sort of waned, and then she sort of did. She's getting it back now. You know, Zelina was getting it. They dropped it, and then then they sort of picked it back up a little bit. But that was really just like everybody's like, it's never going to happen. And then when it did, it's like, well, it's too kind of late now. So some of that is on the creative side. But I was like, but at the same time, you have enough people now to where it's like, okay, the whole thing about like women matching and they're boring all the other stuff, or the amount of like bonds necessarily and stuff like that. I was like, now with anything, you give enough time, you will end up start filling in those spots that used to just be like, hey, there's women here, cool, to being like, oh, we actually have people filling in these spots that is over with the crowd. I was like, could do enough talking or could do enough wrestling and stuff like that, that they carry some gravitas with them, that you can go up and down the line to where it's like, as where we'll get to the point where like you're gonna have real people saying, number 13 person here, insert whoever you want to, why are they not getting run? Why aren't they getting a title shot? Where like you don't really have that past 7. I throw Charlotte Flair in there even though nobody wants it, but you get what I'm saying. I was like, now you're going to be able to look up on that roster and be like, there will not be any dull type of like matchup. You get what I'm saying? I was like, every era always improves on what it is. I was like, as the wrestling has improved, I was like, you've seen the men that improved. Everybody can sort of fly and jump, to where sometimes it does get a little stagnant. But I was like, same thing with the women. I was like, you give them time. It was like input, and like as more and more women get into the field, now you start getting more and more talent, to now we're sort of at that spot to where it's like, okay, now we're at a spot where the whole thing is filled, and you're going to have it filled with good wrestling. You're going to need the creative side to build stories and stuff like that. So that's going to be on that end, because I was like, they can also kill the whole raw for whoever wrestler there is, but they have put themselves in a better position. They're in a better position now, that now it's going to really be something where you're like, oh my God, why is this person not in the Queen of the Ring? Why is this person not in the Money in the Bank? I'm like, I want this person to win the Royal Rumble or whatever. You don't have to just pick from the same several all the time. Now it's actually options. So I was like, I was going just basically highlighting the fact that it's like, that it's not that none of the women at all could wrestle or nothing like that, or the ones I talked about, like of Shayna and all of them. of like Dakota Kai and all that other stuff. Like they couldn't wrestle. I was like, they just didn't have. There was just nothing there that the people even like made a noise for. Almost like how they do Andrade, where Andrade comes out and it's just kind of like cool move. Like, now it's going to be like or whatever song they'll have or something like that'll come through. I was like, because sometimes let's be honest, some people when it comes to talking about with the women's stuff is either too harsh or they're too much where it feels like pandering, or it feels like that person's just really just like, man, it sounds like you just hate women. So it's like, listen, we could be real about this. That it's like, hey, the talent's getting really better. Almost like some of the stuff has to do with, those people are boring. Doesn't mean women matches are boring. It just means that they could be boring. I was like, that could also be creators' fault as well, as much as just like, oh, okay, that person has nothing to offer for me, even if they are wrestling really good. Like Zoe Starks is a really good wrestler, but there's nothing there that's like that they done to let me care about, to be honest. Whereas like same about Cara, she got cool moves. I like she ain't gotta really do no talking. I like she come out here and wrestle. She got the new adrenaline. Like the new energy going for. I was like Roxanne, they're actually doing stuff. They tied her into a storyline. They're having her be in Elimination Chamber, close to the Rumble. I was like Money in the Bank. She qualified for the Queen of the Ring. I was like, she's in stuff so much that's like, okay, they're doing stuff with her. That's awesome. Whatever. I was like, Julia, she's been in Money in the Bank. They had her with Roxanne doing some stuff with Rhea Ripley and stuff like that. Like, that's how you start, like, also, like, seeing the crowd, like, oh, the crowd know who they are. All right, we're going to do some stuff with them over here. Oh, they're starting to do that. All right, we're going to push them over here. It all works in conjunction. But now they got the women to also back up what should be the creative fuel to actually start striking hot on some of them. Also, I will say that unlike the men that have so many guys in the pecking order bumping heads of like where whoever you root for that isn't the top 5 guys of they're probably not gonna get a championship. Whereas like any of these women could win a championship in this year, next year, real quickly, just because. Because I was like, you gotta think. Because of the lack of women in a way, Rhea done got her run. Bianca had her run. Becky and Charlotte, veterans that already getting their run. Bayley's getting her run. Io, this is her second time. You get what I'm saying? Like they're already Asuka, and when she comes back, they already getting so much of their stuff in that you're going to have to give it to the young people just to sort of switch it up and make them not as stale. That's why you sort of get tired of Becky and Charlotte, because there was nobody else. That's why you sort of getting a little bit like Rhea and Bianca, like a little bit, because it's like they had, like, that's the only people they had. So now that you got some of these new people, and now you can have them do some stuff, fight the older people, come right back. It doesn't seem it's not gonna seem as it's not. They shouldn't be as stale. That's what I'm trying to say. Anyway, long enough talking. What do you think? Have we gotten to a point where there's enough star power throughout the whole women's roster, or there soon will be? You got to think about like what's coming up in NXT, that we're going to have almost a dream scenario of the amount of women that you're going to be able to look at, and it's like there shouldn't be any bad matchups. You get what I'm saying? Anyway, let me know what you think. Till then, bye.